I already forwarded you guys the budget runs spreadsheet. Tom has actually made copies. He'll bring that in with the fact sheet when they get that finalized, and you'll have those as well. So, Director Key?
Good, thanks, John. I do, in all earnestness, appreciate everybody coming. So we have these district by district printouts that we're going to release to the public here very soon. You all have seen some of these previews. We also have a summary sheet that provides an explanation of the way the formula works, and then provides some information about ADM loss, and provides some information about formula funding change, which I'd like to talk about when it gets here. We will shortly also put on our website some information about the managed care sales tax transitional supplement payment program, both an explanation of how the calculation is made, along with a spreadsheet that shows some of the data and the actual payment amounts that we will recommend for the 88 counties and the 8 transit authorities that are currently benefiting. So we have that as well. Next week sometime, we would hope to have some written information about our local government fund proposal, the capacity-based LGF proposal, along with some information about projections on the recipients of that aid by different subdivision type. As I'm sure you're aware, the transportation budget, which really ought to be called the highway budget, because it is essentially it's the dedicated purpose highway funds along with associated federal funds that are contained in that bill, was introduced last week, and it had its hearing. Director Ray and Director Bourne went and talked about transportation and public safety respectively. The BWC and the OIC budget bills were also introduced. I would expect that the main operating bill will be introduced next week. We have already sent it to LSC. Our folks we expect to get it back this week, look it over one more time, just make sure it's drafted properly, and send it to the House for them to introduce as they are able. And I would expect that would be Tuesday or Wednesday, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So with that, I'm happy to talk about anything you want to talk about with regard to the budget that's introduced, the budgets that are introduced, or the materials in the blue book. Okay.
Just to help us, these are dumb questions, but I have to ask them every 2 years because I forget. So, first of all, we have had minimums and such that have kept some of these schools from receiving cuts in the past. Is that right?
That's right.
Are we totally scrapping them?
We are not.
Okay.
We are not. So we have a foundation formula, which has a series of components. The major components are: what's your valuation? What is a district's valuation? What is the income of the residents of that district? And then how many students do you have? And then there's different payments for different types of students. That's the formula. And then outside of the formula, we have guarantees, as they're commonly referred to. And then we have these gain caps. And so the guarantee for the last couple of budgets has basically been that for the 2 years of the budget, your aid cannot fall below that prior year. Meaning to say, for the last budget, or the current budget, FY15 was the guarantee base in both fiscal years 16 and 17. And that guarantee base was 100%. I mean, what our proposal is that for 18 and 19, FY17 will be the guarantee base. But that we are introducing the ADM change. We are looking at ADM change between fiscal years 11 and 16. If your ADM in that period fell by more than 5%, then your guarantee base will be something less than 100% of FY17. If your ADM grew, then you'll be 100%. If your ADM fell by less than 5%, your guarantee base will still be 100%. But if your ADM was greater than 5%, then there'll be a sliding scale reduction, which essentially equals whatever your ADM loss was above that 5% threshold, such that if you lost 1%, if you lost 6% of students, your guarantee base would be 99% of 17, and so on and so forth. So it is only it does not kick in until there's been what we think is an appreciable loss of students, and it only represents a modest reduction from the amount of aid received the prior year.
Okay, so then, and you said the last two budgets, so the last 4 years, the guarantee has been what you had the year before.
Well, it's not the year before. It's the year prior to the 2-year period.
Got it.
So,
Yeah.
because at some points in the past, the guarantee has been to the year before, always the year before. So in 18, it would have been 17, and in 17, it would be 16. But the last couple of budgets, it has been anchored to the year prior to the biennium. So essentially, there's one guarantee for the 2-year period of time.
Got it. Sorry.
What's the dollar impact from going from a 7.5 gain cap to a 5% gain cap?
I don't immediately recall.
Is there something about the number 5%? Or is it just you had to pick a number for something?
No particular magic.
And this 5% total maximum 5% loss is a one-time. It can't happen to you again in 19, right? It's only going to happen in 18.
Right. The calculation only it kicks in. It only kicks in 18. There's no subsequent further reduction.
So
Now that remains your guarantee base number. But if you'd already dropped to it, right, and you can't drop further below it. There could be some districts. I don't think it shows up. If this were put into law, there could be some districts that wouldn't get there the first year and might see a subsequent. They might fall the second year, but you won't fall below that level. So it takes the place for both years of the 100%, but it doesn't. We don't ratchet down further, if you will, in the second year.
So if I'm looking at your spreadsheet, and I have this column that says FY 11 to 16, 10% change. That's the number you're looking at for the 5%, right?
Do we have one for me? Do I have a copy of this? I'm sorry.
It says FY 11 to FY 16, 5-year total ADM% change.
Yes. There's two. There should be the absolute. There should be a column that is the actual number of kids,
And then, yeah.
and then the percent. And so that's what you got to look at, right? If you're more than 5, if you're 5 or above, then you're subject to the new base.
So
if the loss is less than 5, or if it's a plus number, then you're not.
So if I look, for example, at, I'll just pull one out here, Hillsdale, they had a 15% drop. Does that mean they're 10% double?
No, because we cap it out at 5.
It's capped at 5. Okay.
The guarantee base cannot drop below by more than 5%. It can't drop to more than 95.
Okay.
So anybody who loses 10 or above, they still have a 5% loss. And again, why did we do that? Because we acknowledge that if this number got too large, there could potentially be impacts.
Tim, I'm looking over this spreadsheet, and again, this is very quick and preliminary, but Franklin County a lot of their districts in Franklin County are seeing fairly decent increases, 4%, 5%. Counties, Belmont County, Brown County, or most of those districts are seeing cuts. Now, you've been through this many times. You know what they're going to say. You're going to say you're cutting poor rural districts.
Well, I'm gonna have a soon. I'll have a spreadsheet, or I'll have an explanatory sheet for you that will show that if you break up this, if you array the school districts by quintile of capacity, meaning if you break them up into fifths and you look at their capacity, by capacity, not by geography, but by capacity, our proposal drives more resources to the lower capacity districts. That's what the formula does. The formula is not set up to send money based on the geographic location of the school district. Because within those categories that the education department has, where they break out by rural and small town and suburban and city, there's a variety of capacities within each of those categories. I mean, in that rural category, they're not all poor rural, notwithstanding the poorly named title that education attaches to that grouping. I mean, there are districts with different degrees of capacity contained within that. Furthermore, and this was a factor last year, valuation change is a key element of the foundation formula. Many rural districts are experiencing, or have been experiencing, significant increase in property valuation attributable to farm lands. And so when their values go up, that flows into the formula and it drives up their state share index number, which drives up so the formula basically then requires that community to contribute more resources. There's the column. There's another column in that printout that we have is, and it's just over from the ADM. We have the. I guess we have numbers attached to this. That's helpful. We have in column 7, we have the FY17 state share, and then we have in column 8 we have the estimated state share, then we have the change in the state share from 17 to 18. You know, the reason we did that is to display the state share is a key factor in what aid school districts get. If your state share is changing such that it is increasing, it likely is going to drive increased aid. If your state share is changing such that it is declining, then it is an explanation as to why you might not be getting aid. Or why, while if in the presence of also losing students, you might be getting a negative number on this printout.
You're saying property values, if they go up.
When property values go up, that drives this, that contributes to this state share number.
Right.
And so I would ask you to focus on that column 9, the change in the state share index. That is a key indicator in what school districts receive through the formula. It's not an indicator. I mean, it is it's the key factor.
So that's why in some of these cases where they have lost 5, 6, 7, 8% in ADM, their state share though has gone up enough that pushes.
Yeah, I mean Cleveland, for example.
Yeah,
I mean, I believe the city of Cleveland, they have lost, what did they lose, 6% or
5%?
something? Yeah,
Yeah.
they lost 6% of their kids maybe, but they're growing, like 3.6% the first year, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're property.
Yeah, so notwithstanding the fact that there's fewer kids, the foundation formula factors produce an aid increase for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, that's another point. Just because you have lost more than 5% of your kids does not mean that that you're going to lose, that you're going to go on, that you're going to. That makes you eligible for a guarantee base adjustment, but it doesn't mean if you are still on the formula, it won't affect you. Right? Just because you've lost more than 5% of your kids doesn't mean that you're going to find yourself on the guarantee. It could be that the formula will drive money to you and that you will receive an increase in aid. Because there are a variety of factors that go into the formula that affect the final result for each of the 610 districts that we have projected for.
Does your capacity formula take into account current taxes being levied?
And again, this is not it is the law. This is the law. Recall this, again, I want to also emphasize, the governor made one change to the formula, which is the transportation. that is outside the formula. We made one, no, in this, the law, so we have a law that's in place for 16-17. The governor's proposal made one change to the formula, and that's the reduction of the minimum state share for transportation. Now, we did propose a different gain cap, and we proposed a different guarantee, but those are not part of the formula. I consider them outside of the formula. They are post-formula adjustments.
Got it.
So, so back to your question, Jim?
Yeah, does the calculation of capacity, does it include current taxes levied? Like if you're levying a
It is
high
a-
percentage of you got a high property tax rate that you're paying versus a district maybe that's.
Well, rate is not,
20 mil.
it's,
I don't-
rate doesn't come into play, it's
Okay.
valuation per pupil.
That's what I-
And it's a 3-year average, so it's an average of 3 past years, 3 recent past years. And I'll have to get back to you if you want to know specifically. So again, there's a, and then remember, so it's a 3-year average. Recall also that the way Ohio values property is there's a full-blown reappraisal every 6 years, and then there's an update every 3 years. So depending on when those have happened, that plays into what those valuation numbers are and what those valuation per pupil numbers are. So there's a little bit of a lag on the property values that are used in this formula.
Separate from this, is the governor proposing any changes to CAUV in this budget? I haven't
There,
heard
we
mention.
will not have any proposed changes to CAUV in the budget as introduced.
Following up on that, you know, there's proposals out there, and there seems to be a big push from the farmers on that again. You know, what would you say, how would that impact this formula if they went ahead and started tweaking that?
Well, any change that affects the valuation of any property then flows through into the school foundation formula. And, well, not only the formula, it also flows into what the, if assessed value is changed, the mills that a school district would impose would collect less money, potentially. So again, back to this ag valuation. I mean, ag